When someone asks about your childhood and you just freeze, it's like the answer isn't quite there. It's not necessarily because it was terrible or because nothing happened, but because somewhere between the age of 7 and 17, you skipped about 15 chapters. That gap is where the story of growing up too fast lives. It's a quiet phenomenon. It's making dinner for your siblings at 9 years old while your parent works a double shift, or becoming the translator between your parents during their arguments. It's learning to read the room before you ever learn to read chapter books. That version of you, the one who had to grow up too fast, doesn't disappear. It influences how you make decisions even now, decades later. Imagine an 8-year-old child who suddenly becomes the most responsible person in their household. They didn't choose this role. They had to step into it to survive, or to keep the family afloat. Psychologists call this parentification, when a child takes on roles and responsibilities that should belong to adults. But that clinical term doesn't quite capture the heavy weight of being small and holding up something so much bigger than you. Research shows that parentified children often develop what looks like exceptional maturity, but it isn't true maturity. It's a survival adaptation. It's a child's nervous system learning to operate in crisis mode as the default setting. What felt normal to you back then was often just someone else's crisis that you were forced to manage. As an adult, this childhood experience manifests as a set of superpowers that come with a hidden price tag. You might be incredibly good at reading people's emotions, sensing a mood shift the second someone walks through the door. Problem-solving became second nature because for you, the alternative was never an option. Ironically, people who grew up this way often struggle with the simplest things. While they can handle massive life challenges with their eyes closed, they find it nearly impossible to ask for help, to rest without feeling guilty, or to just be silly. Those things feel dangerous because you learned early on that the world doesn't stop for you, and your needs must always come second. Stability depended on your ability to hold everything together, so you built an entire operating system around that belief. In your adult life, this looks like being the reliable one. You are the person everyone turns to in a crisis. You might even find yourself attracted to people who need fixing. This isn't necessarily a savior complex. It's because being needed is the only kind of love you were taught to recognize. Intimacy can feel exposing because being vulnerable was a luxury you couldn't afford as a child. Even when you are safe now, with people who genuinely care, a part of you refuses to let your guard down. You might even find consistent, healthy love uncomfortable, like you're constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop, because unavailable feels more like home. Then there is the relationship with control. This isn't about being toxic, it's a deep, primal need to manage every variable in your environment, because unpredictability once meant danger. You overthink every scenario before making a decision. People might call you a perfectionist or a type A personality, but what they are actually seeing is a child who learned that letting their guard down had consequences. This leads to a bone-deep exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. Your nervous system has been in overdrive since elementary school, and your body has never truly learned what safety feels like, because rest meant things might fall apart. Society actually rewards this struggle. We love people who grew up too fast because they're productive, independent, and low maintenance. They get things done without asking for much. But no one asks what it cost them to become that way. You become fluent in emotional labor, managing the tension in a room like a conductor leading an orchestra, diffusing conflict before it even starts, and making everyone else comfortable while you're drowning inside. You do it automatically, like breathing, but this kind of breathing slowly empties you out. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone because no one sees how hard you are working to keep everything smooth. Asking them to notice feels like admitting defeat. Healing from this is a journey because it wasn't one big traumatic event. It was 1,000 small moments of being too much and not enough at the same time. The first step is grieving. You have to grieve the childhood you didn't get to have, the version of you who could have been messy, needy, and irresponsible and still been loved. Acknowledging this doesn't make you ungrateful, it makes you honest. You have to learn the hard lesson that being needed is not the same as being valued. Your worth is not measured by what you produce or how well you manage the emotions of others. You are not a human doing, you are a human being, and being is enough. You are allowed to be a beginner at being taken care of. The fact that you are an adult now doesn't change the fact that you never learned how to let someone else hold the weight. Be patient with yourself. That child who grew up too fast did an incredible job. They were resourceful, strong, and brave beyond measure, but they don't have to run the show anymore. It is safe to let someone else take a turn. It is safe to finally let go of the grip you've had on everything for so long. You've been holding on so tight, but you are finally allowed to rest.